Nebraska fans, we're back with episode 4 of Black Shirts Breakdown. Now, we've talked about QBs, coaching staff, the line on both sides of the ball. But what we're going to talk about today is your wide receiver and tight end room. You're going to talk wide receivers and tight ends, then we got to talk about the coach. We're going to talk about that young buck, your wide receiver coach, Garrett McGuire. This man he gets me fired up, all right? 24 years old, right? Rules already called him brilliant. All right. Gotta love it when your head coach is calling this young man brilliant. He's developed relationships with players. That's what he wants to be. He wants to be a player's coach. Okay. He's 24 years old. My man in the presser coming out quoting the GOAT. They don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. You have got to love the swag and the way my man handles himself. Like I said, he's 24 years old, quoting the GOAT. I love it. He's one of the youngest coaches in college football, whether it be assistant, wide receivers coach, running backs coach, doesn't matter. But my man's coming in packing NFL experience, okay? He was at Carolina for the last years as an assistant. Now, granted, the Panthers were not the best team in the NFL, but he was part of a team and a system that pushed out 3,200 pass yards and 2,200 rush yards. They were one of only 8 teams in the NFL to do that, and he was a part of that, okay? He's got it. He's been learning from some of the best in the game. Mike Lombardi, Ben McAdoo, Joe Brady, James Kappen. Those are 4 names right there that are on the top echelon of coaches. My man's been learning under them for the last 2 or 3 years, okay? When I tell you he's got that swag and that fire, in the presser, he also said, when DBs and wide receivers are going one-on-one, he's ready to just tie the shoes up and throw the clipboard on the ground and one-on-one against DB Coach Cooper. If that doesn't get your guys fired up, I don't know what does. And he ain't in there for the money. He ain't trying to get a bag and go. He's on a base salary of $285,000. So my man is there to get the best out of his players. He was quoted saying, "My door is always open. I want my people in there. If I'm just breaking down film, come on in and hang out." He goes, "I got Pop Tarts and honey buns. Anyway, anytime you need it, come on in." He wants that atmosphere. Now, let's get into who he's going to be coaching and who we expect to be catching the pigskin for the Cornhuskers this year. You can't replace the magnificency of Trey Palmer, okay? Between the speed, the agility, and the hands in this man, he was unbelievable. It's going to be a task to replace him. Single season receiving yardage record, 1,043 yards. And that comes despite having a 3-game stretch where he only had 11 caught passes for 50 yards. So imagine if those games were on an average for him, you would have been looking at 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards easily, okay? We'll always remember the Purdue performance, right, where he went off. One of the best performances in Big Red history. And then you got the 150-yard effort against Iowa. So those are 2 big W's that were responsible by Trey Palmer. He granted us the dub and brought us to the end zones. So we can't replace that. We can only hope to come close to that. And the tight end department, we have to replace Travis Vokalek, right? Now, he didn't shoot off the boards, but he made the most out of his opportunity. 20 receptions, 240 yards, 2 scores, and he was a great run blocking tight end. Other departures in the room for the wide receivers: Dakotas Crawford, Omar Manning, Brody Belt, Oliver Martin, Chancellor Brewington. Now, coming in, we got Marcus Washington, who's returning. Tommy Hill, returning. Isaiah Garcia, Castaneda. This is my guy, Xavier Betts. We'll talk about him in a little bit. In the tight end department, Thomas Fido in the second, Chris Hickman, James Carney, and A.J. Rollins, outside of recruits and transfers in the portal. So let's kick it right off into these pass receivers, these wide receivers. We'll go with wide receiver 1 as the wide receiver Y. And that would be, right now, Marcus Washington, 6'2", 190 pounds. We're coming out of Trinity Catholic High School, St. Louis, Missouri, right? He's a 4-star transfer from Texas Longhorns. He came here in 21. In 21, for the Longhorns, he had 25 receptions, close to 400 yards, 366, right? 3 touchdowns. But he's a big playmaker. He averaged 14.6 yards per catch. Now, first season last year with the Cornhuskers, in 12 games, he had 31 receptions for 471 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, big play guy, 15.2 yards per catch. I expect Marcus Washington to eat and be that guy early in the season. whether it be Thompson again, coming off injury, or it be Jeff Sims. It's my dude, calling it now. We'll be going to take over the 1-1 spot as the wide receiver Y. That is Xavier Betts, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a sophomore out of Bellevue West High School. Yes, Bellevue, homegrown in Nebraska. You gotta love when you get the big dogs and they come from home. In 12 games last year, he had 20 receptions for 286 yards, 14.3 yards per catch, but he also had 3 attempts for 109 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was beautiful. It was an 80-yard scramble off the left side. Once he got out in front of the defense, there was no catching him. Quoting Matt Rule, he loves Betts already. I'm rooting for him. I am anxious to see him get back on the field and do well in the classroom. I am anxious not just to give him a chance, but to advocate for him. Okay? He's an extremely talented 4-star recruit. He was the 20th ranked receiver in the 2020 class. My man now is healthy. Academic issues are behind him. He has versatility. He's a playmaker. I have very, very good feeling that Xavier Betts will show up and show out very, very early for the Cornhuskers. Now you got the third slot guy. You got Tommy Hill as wide receiver. Why is number 3? He's a long, big body guy at 6 foot. He's got exceptional arm length. But for most of his collegiate career in Nebraska, he's been a special teams guy and a DB. So I assume he's just an emergency wide receiver for you guys. Now at the Z, returning Alante Brown, who has small sample size last year, played a few games, had 16 receptions for 191 yards. Sophomore, average close to 12 yards per catch. He's 5'11", 190 pounds. He visited Ole Miss and he visited Maryland, but he chose to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. Speaks volumes. This is another dude that I'm a big, big fan of. And if he didn't get hurt last year, I think he would have had a breakout season for the Cornhuskers. And I'm loving the fact that he entered the portal, but he decided to stay home in Nebraska. And that's Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, 6 foot, 185 pounds. He went to Saddleback College before he transferred over to Mexico State before he ended up in Nebraska. But in 21 for New Mexico State, he had 37 receptions, 578 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, last year, got injured early, only played 4 games, had 5 receptions for 120 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown came in the very first game, right corner of the end zone. Made a quick move, boom, caught it. Like I said, only played 4 games, got injured, was done for the season. I'm glad he's returning. Brand new makeover in the slot for the Cornhuskers. We're bringing in transfers, we're bringing in experience, and we're bringing in speed. All right, transfers Josh Fleek and Billy Kemp IV offer instant 2 plug-and-play options in the slot. Right, Nebraska secures a starting slot receiver in Kemp, while Fleek should probably be an early rotation. Probably, like I said, with Washington Betts on the outside. What's wrong with Billy Kemp? Let's see a little background on Mr. Kemp, right? 5'9", 180 pounds. He's a senior out of Highland Springs High School. Yeah, he played 4 years at Virginia. He transferred over. In his career, he got 192 receptions, 774 yards, 8 touchdowns. All right. My man got close to 8 yards per catch, but that's not his only bag. He is a superb special teams player. He had 369 punt return yards. He had 160 kick return yards, right? In 2020, he was number 2 in the ACC and number 18 in the nation. He averaged 6.7 receptions per game, right? In 2021, he had 74 catches for 725 yards. He had no fewer than 3 receptions in any game in 2021. Now, he also goes down as the first Cavalier to lead in punt returns and punt return yardage for 4 straight seasons from 2019 to 2022. So my man gets jiggy. My man lives on the field, right? He can play in the backfield. He can play in the slot. Obviously, play special teams. I expect Billy Kemp to be on the field a lot for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. The other gentleman that can work the slot, his name goes by the name of Josh Fleeks. 5'10", 190 pounds, right? He got some familiarity with Matt Rule because he's a Baylor transfer. He was recruited by Matt Rule back in 2019. Now, under Matt Rule's coaching, he had 25 receptions for 262 yards, a touchdown, and he averaged about 10 yards per catch. His career at Baylor was 69 receptions, 700 yards, 9.2 yards per catch, and 8 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns came from his wide receiver coach, Gary McGuire. So there's a familiarity right there. I think that's huge. You got a guy who's used to you and how you run, is familiar with you, and he's going to implement that into whatever QB is going to be QB1 for the Cornhuskers. Now let's break down the rest of this wide receiver room. And this guy I'm about to mention, he is the dude. He is him. He's about to step in. I don't know if it's going to be week one where he eats, but I think it's a very good chance that he could be eating early, often. You want to talk about show up and show out? This is what Malachi Coleman does. 6'4", 185-pound freshman, homegrown out of Lincoln, Nebraska, fresh out of Lincoln East High School. Right? He got the height, he got the reach, he got the athleticism to force the ball-winning ability on the offense. He is a big play machine. You want to call him Larry Bird, because my man averaged 33 yards per catch. He had 10 of 17 of his receptions go for touchdowns last year, right? He is an open field monster. We're about to call him Top Gear because he just put it in fourth, put it in fifth, and we outie. Gone. You ain't catching him. See you later. He is a rare multi-sport athlete, right, in regards to the tools and the fact that he has a track background. Posted that, my man posted up sub 10, sub 11 hundreds, okay? And at least 4 sub 22s in the 200. But if you don't understand the numerology right there, numerology going on, my man got wheels, smoke, right? He got that gas. He had 17 receptions for 561 yards, 10 touchdowns. Again, 33 yards per catch. Hold up. But that's not it. My man played on the other side of the ball. Not only is he a multi-sport athlete, he can play on both sides of the ball in football. He had 57 tackles, 7.5 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. Now, that is probably not going to happen in Nebraska. And we just want to let you know, get an idea of how athletic Malachi Coleman is. Malachi Coleman is about to be your QB1's favorite guy by midseason. A couple other wide receivers that I really like before we hit the tight ends. That's Bryce Turner, 6'1", 180 pounds. He's a freshman. He is, if you want to give a chance, well, Turner is the epitome of a Matt Rule flyer, right? He got all them good measurables, and he is fast as the wind. He got good attitude, and Matt Rule was just, those are the type of dudes they want to give you a shot. He coming out of Texas, right? He's a speedster. He went to Texas for a 100-meter and 200-meter crowns, right? He ran a 10.25 100-meter and a 21.04 200-meter. So my man gets juiced up. He's out there boogieing around. Another gentleman is Sean Hardy, the second. He's a freshman, 6'3", 190 pounds, coming out of Kingsland, Georgia. Anytime you get some wide receiver talent out of Georgia, you're winning. He had offers from Georgia Tech, Ohio State, and Kentucky. My man chose Lincoln, Nebraska. We got Victor Jones Jr., sophomore, 6'2", 184 pounds. He coming out of Olympia High School, Orlando, Florida. The next gentleman, I think you're going to hear this name quite often in spring, which spring practice start on the 20th, so get ready. Jarian Bonner, 6'1", 193 pounds out of Cedar Grove High School. Another Georgia wide receiver they were able to steal away. He got elite top-end speed. He's a former 4-star recruit who flipped from Georgia Tech, from Nebraska. I saw the flip. Well, once he put that Cornhuskers hat on, that whole place went bananas. He's a pedigree guy, but I think, I'm a big pedigree guy. If one of your, your brothers, your father, your uncle, they played professionally, wherever it may be, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, tennis, it doesn't matter. Pedigree matters. That's Baron Miles Jr., right? He didn't play last year at all, but he got that pedigree. His father played in the CFL. I think Baron Miles Jr. is another guy who gets some action in spring and could possibly get off the bench for the Cornhuskers midseason. Now, in the tight end room, everybody wants to talk about the shiny new toy. That's Eric Gilbert, 6'6", 260-pound senior. He's played for, he transferred from LSU to Georgia, and then from Georgia to Lincoln, Nebraska. A man can play attached. He can play split out. He can play as a wide receiver, right? He can move. He's a big dude that moves well as a tight end. He got adequate hands. He got great ball skills. A man can sink his hips and change direction as a route runner, almost wide receiver-esque, right? He catches in traffic well. He's super uber competitive. His athleticism is through the roof. He's long-limbed, get that V-shaped muscularity to him. He's just a dude. My concern is, in 3 years, you only have 37 receptions for 384 yards and 3 touchdowns. You average about 10 yards per catch. I need to see the production go well. But this is a perfect opportunity because what does Matt Rule do? Whether it's college or NFL, we just stack up the tight end room, right? We're going to run the ball and we're going to throw the ball to the tight ends, short passes before we go over the top. So I think Eric Gilbert's got a chance to show up, finally, live up to the hype and everything. Next gentleman up is Chris Hickman, 6'5", 215, junior out of Burke High School, Omaha, Nebraska, homegrown again. He played in 2 games, didn't see a single reception. My man played on both sides of the ball, and he played split out in high school, right? He shows the ability to go up and high point the ball, right? He can outbody defenders in jump ball situations. He's got good timing. He got a great catch radius, and he's got good leaping ability. He has route running qualities, like a little bit wide receiver-esque, like the other gentleman I mentioned earlier. And he shows good bursts off the ball. He got a long stride. I guess he only played in 2 games, 22, no receptions. I think that might change a little bit this year, especially in Matt Rule's system. And Nate Borkircher, 6'5", 235 pounds, out of Ora High School in Ora, Nebraska. If that sounds familiar, that's because you're a defensive line guy, and your coach on the other side of the ball, Mr. Viola. We already spoke about how he was a coach, and he averaged 200 yards rushing on the ground. So familiarity is there. As a freshman in 12 games, he had 6 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Bergenkaya will give Gilbert somewhat of a run, but do not sleep on this last gentleman. He's a freshman coming in. It's Ishmael Smith Flores, 6'5", 210 pounds, right? He had offers from Indiana, Rutgers, Colorado State, and a tight end factory known as Iowa. And Matt Rule is giddy like a kid on Christmas that he was able to secure a gifted tight end away from the Hawkeyes, right? They're known for Hall of Fame tight ends. He stole one away, and he's excited about it. So this one hits just a little differently. At 6'5", 210 pounds, he's a multi-sport athlete out of Arlington, Texas, and he follows his coach, Bob Wagner, the tight end coach, over to Lincoln. He played mostly as a wide receiver last year, right? But he had 15 catches for 362 yards and 3 touchdowns. Keep your ears on for Ishmael Smith Flores in spring practices. It's time, Nebraska. It's time for a change in the offense. It's time for something new. It is time for Nebraska to be relevant again. And it is time for me to go. Until next time, Nebraska, go Big Red.